I said, just remember, you did the best you could. And you always remember that. In every moment, I did the best that I could. And that's it. And then you can let it go.
Someone cares about you.
There's a reason why your heart is beating.
You still have a purpose.
Don't give up.
It's important to know that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Taking daily walks provides numerous advantages, both physically and mentally. It contributes to stress reduction, mood enhancement, and even lowers depression risk. As you prepare for your walk today, I'm stoked that you're joining us for a chat with our featured guest, the 2023 Armed Forces Insurance Air Force Spouse of the Year, Ashley Gutermuth. Ashley was born into a family with deep roots in military service, and she's been making the world laugh while simultaneously healing hearts. Ashley's the daughter of an Army veteran and granddaughter of a Korean War veteran, and her resilience is second to none. And when her parents, who were helicopter mechanics, warned her about pilots, she paid heed by marrying one who happens to just be 20 years older than her. Becoming a military spouse and stepmother marked a big transition in her life, and comedic pursuits took a backseat as she braced herself to tackle full-time parenting head-on. Recent experiences like accompanying her son Will to his Naval Academy orientation were laced with humor and challenge. Juggling household relocations every couple of years and custody issues could have thrown anyone for a loop, but she made sure to keep her passion alive. Pursuing voice acting on an Air Force base while continuing to write, Ashley found ways around each obstacle. And finally, stationed in a location supportive of her stand-up dreams, even frequent deployments from her husband couldn't hold her back. She began testing the waters with military spouse-themed jokes that resonated with the community while her social media videos took off. But she decided it wasn't enough to just make people laugh. She wanted to make their lives better too. And alarmed by food insecurity plaguing families within her reach, Ashley took action. She is a class act if there ever was one, and this woman has many hats. Comedian, military spouse, mother, and hero in her own right. Ashley, welcome to the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast.
Danny, holy heck. I feel like we're going to have that be my obituary.
Well, you've just done so much. You are such an incredible person, and we were honored to see you live and in person in Vegas. So I felt any introduction could never do justice for you and what you've done.
You're very sweet. Thank you very much. Yeah, I get around. There's a couple of me. You know, I do a lot of speed. So you just keep it going.
I love it. Well, as our listeners start their Strava app and begin their walk, I'd love to hear about your childhood. What was life like growing up in Pennsylvania?
Oh my God, my childhood. There's a lot of stuff. Yeah, both my parents were helicopter mechanics. I used to go to work with them all the time. My mom was a lead mechanic. My dad eventually got promoted to be a quality. He was a mechanic and then became a quality assurance inspector. And that's a problem because then his job is to inspect my mom's work. That's a real issue. I don't know if your marriage could handle that, but theirs couldn't, which is fine. Yeah, I kind of grew up with just constant turmoil, threats in the sense of like, I remember my dad used to stockpile food, and like he always thinks the world is about to end or there's some war that's about to break out, and he would stockpile food in case of a war. And the food that he stockpiled were sourdough pretzels, Twizzlers, and cookies, Cookie Crisp cereal. That's not fair as a 5-year-old because you're just asking, you want war to happen. Like you're making me bet against America, Dad. He said, you can't eat it unless there's a war. And that's what I feel bad about my feelings back then. But yeah, there was I've never been particularly girly. I know I radiate femininity now, but I've never been that way. I played baseball growing up. On boys' teams until I was forced out. You know, they don't let girls play anymore, which to me is still ridiculous. And just anything that was a bit different, I would do. I had tasers and throwing knives and guns and. Just wow. There's a lot of that's how you make a me. It was a real mix of like, here are some dangerous things, but also we're paranoid all the time. That was my family.
Oh my goodness. It sounds like there was absolutely a lot going on and a lot of material. I wouldn't be able to resist the Cookie Crisp. I think I would have broken into them every time.
Right?
I mean,
we're on the same team.
parents, do not keep sweets in your house if you don't want your kids, and wives, don't keep sweets around if you don't want your husbands getting them. Like, that's just not
Exactly.
right.
That's totally fair. My dad used to say, my dad, he's like a lifetime of strange quotes. He had the food thing, and then we had the stockpiled water. You know, he still does that. He's got several storage units full of like, he's got just like all kinds of stuff that have got to be illegal. But he used to say to me when I was a kid, Ashley, just so you know, if there's a war that breaks out and we need to, we'll eat your best friend. And I'm like,
gosh.
dude, your friend, it's your friends. Like, they're old and grizzly. I got young friends with futures. Why are we eating my friends?
Because they can't fend for themselves.
They can't. I think so. And like, nobody wants to come over that. I got to warn my buddies before they come over the house. I'm like, I'm not inviting you over. I'm going to be complicit in a murder.
Oh gosh, the path to entertainment is filled with all sorts of individuals. I mean, myself included. My dad kind of saw that I was driven towards performing, pushed me towards acting when I lived with him for a little bit. But what inspired you to pursue your comedy and performing careers?
I've done I've had a lot of jobs, and I have never taken, I was performing even while I was in regular jobs. I've never had a job where I haven't tried to arm wrestle a boss. I've never had a job where I haven't thought, you guys are taking this seriously? This isn't all like a joke. And that's not acceptable in regular society, I am told. I've only been almost fired once, though, I think. Yeah, they were going to fire me. I was selling electronic whiteboards, and I was in England. I lived in England. I was selling electronic whiteboards. The only reason they hired me, they told me, was because I had an accent. And I can't sell things. I'm really bad at it, because I'll just tell you all the reasons why you don't need it. Why would you need an electronic whiteboard? I had to call these schools and like, you need to sell, I got to get past the secretary. I'm like, this school doesn't need this. This is ridiculous. They need to provide free lunches to these kids, not electronic whiteboards. And I didn't sell anything for like a month. And then they said, hey, if you don't sell anything in a week, you're gone. And I was like, I'm out. You're not doing this to me. I'll take my accent elsewhere. I've got skills.
Don't make me sell at my sales job.
Don't make me. I'm not going to sell myself to you. I can't even sell these whiteboards.
Oh my goodness. And so just performing was, I hear you when we talk, when you mention, like, is this really serious? Is every job so serious that we can't have a little fun while we're doing it, right?
Yeah, there's no real point in being sad to me. I don't know. It's just like, why do it? Why bother? You know.
It's kind of a choice that we get to be angry or upset, and a lot of the times I like to choose happiness and whatnot. But how did you end up in front of an audience?
I just was always trying to do that. I'm not afraid to stand up in front of people. If anything, I'm dead inside. I'm not worked up about being up there or any of that. And I've always been that way. I remember standing up in front of the whole school in high school and singing some theme tune to a song. And I remember when I left, they all laughed, and that was great. And I remember telling myself something very important when it was done, because I'm a overthinker. I will just obsess and overthink in a loop until it gets worse and worse. And I said, just remember, you did the best you could. And you always remember that. In every moment, I did the best that I could. And that's it. And then you can let it go. So if I were to think back and be like, no, they really hated me. You don't do that. You just go, whatever. You get to, stoicism. You get to perceive it however the heck you want to perceive it. They love me. Great. Let's live in the delusion.
That's such a great mindset. And the fact that you had that when you were younger. I mean, I know a lot of us, we get flutters, we get the stage fright and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people, I taught for about 7 years to the military crowd. So getting up in front of a group of 20 or a group of 2,000 was never much of a problem, but that also came with experience. And I always encourage people, like, get the experiences behind it. Just kind of go with it and see what happens. Worst thing that's going to happen is you might pass out and fall off a stage.
Yeah. And then that'll be a good YouTube clip. If you upload that, you can make money.
Exactly. As I was learning about you and reading a little bit, there was something that really intrigued me. When you graduated high school, you went over to live in London.
Well, that's what they said was London, but it was more up north. It's like the Pittsburgh of England. But yeah, I went and I lived over there for a little bit. I worked. I went to school for a couple years. And I love British comedy. That's my big thing. I know more about British comedy than I do about American comedy, and I'm obsessed with comedy in general. But people over there, like you got Jimmy Carr, who does really dark one-liners. There's Milton Jones, who does one-liners but are more whimsical. There's an Irish comedian, Dara O'Brien, who does things that are more like scientific comedy. And it's just there's Eddie Izzard, different things that we have here. And I just grew up around like British TV. PBS was a big part of my life. And Are You Being Served? And as time goes by, Saturday nights. So yeah, I still really like England and all of that.
Then what brought you back then?
Oh, well, you can't stay there forever legally. I hear there's policies. Yeah, they actually made it harder recently too, where you have to make a certain amount of money. So it's difficult, but you can stay for a little while. I was there for a couple of years, and it was neat. I worked in a couple different places. That was where I sold the electronic whiteboards. That's why they hired me for that accent, because it was a bit different. And I would get made fun of by British people all the time for the way that I said certain things. They would ask me to say mirror. I actually changed how I said mirror as opposed to mirror. They'd say, "Oh, what's that reflective thing? That's a mirror." "Oh, mirror." I'm like, what do you mean? I grew up in Pittsburgh, and I didn't really have a super Pittsburgh accent. I did voiceover, so I took accent reduction lessons, but I'm not like my grandma, who, if you talk to her, she'd be like, "I'm going to go down to Giant Eagle on that, and we're going to wash up. we're going to get some jumbo." And it's a bunch of stuff that doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, I feel like I went on a tangent there, but.
All right. So you come back from England, you're back in school, you left the whiteboard job, you couldn't afford to become a citizen over there. And
I sold bowling alley parties too. Bowling alley party packages. Didn't sell a single one. Oh,
didn't
sell a single one. 14,000 pounds a year they paid.
How did you keep getting sales jobs?
I don't know. I was just like, I had this job. They didn't ask for proof of me selling anything. That and bartending. I'd be a terrible bartender because I'd just be there going, "No, you don't. Go back to your wife. Why are you here?
Stop buying alcohol.
Stop buying. Do you know what you're doing to yourself?"
Oh, man. So how did you end up, once you got back to America, you met your husband in college. Obviously, he was 20 years older, and there's got to be a story associated with that. But he's an Air Force pilot, from what I understand, and you started growing a career in comedy during this time. How did you manage?
Well, I don't really ever do anything linearly. My college, I went to Embry-Riddle, and I did it online. So, I could be anywhere. I went to school for aircraft accident investigation because I grew up around helicopters, and I thought that I could use my parents' influence. What do they call that? The nepotism. I thought I could use nepotism to get a job, and didn't really work. I just did. I remember just hating it so much. There's a lot of interesting things, but I have my degrees in aircraft accident investigation, and you read about all these horrific things. Now I don't like flying. Though I do know a lot of people that have crashed in helicopters and survived and have been fine, like 10. And it makes me just like, you wouldn't think that was possible. I remember some helicopters my parents were fixing, and the one crashed. I'm sure that they had something to do with it. But everybody was fine. And there would always be weird stuff too. Like the helicopters would go to different countries for a variety of reasons, and they'd come back and they'd have weird spiders in them and stuff like that. I did a lot of like cleaning. The other kid, there's a lot of pictures of me cleaning helicopters or changing the oil or cleaning the birds off and out of the engines. They hit a lot of birds. It's a real problem.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. They suck in a lot of birds. It's bad. It's like a flying war up there. The helicopters are like, no, I will not have anything else in these skies.
So with becoming the jack of all trades and stuff like that, and never having that solid job, I know that you had kind of continued writing because, from what I understand, like with comedy and any type of performing, a lot of it is self-written. And how did you end up getting to kind of where you're at now? Because obviously, like, you didn't start at your level.
Yeah. So comedians in general will write them, the majority. Okay. The bulk of comedians write all of their stuff completely, even when they're doing Netflix specials and things like that. They're writing all that. Some of them will hire people. Some, when you see them on like a TV show or panel shows, are bigger in the UK than they are here. They'll have writers that kind of help them from week to week. But yeah, the majority are writing all their stuff anyway. But yeah, you just, I mean, to be a comedian, you just say I'm a comedian, and then you go and you do it. You go to open mics and you fail and you go, oh my God, this is terrible. And then for some reason, you do it again and again and again and again. And there's a one-liner comic in England. His name's Gary Delaney. And he says, if you want to get better, you do more than 4 shows or open mics a week. If you want to stay the same, do 4. If you want to get worse, do less than 4, which I think kind of makes sense. You have to keep performing because it's a muscle, especially the first few years. You have to figure out the things you want to say and the things that work and try to get them to make sense.
That's pretty wild. And for military spouses, I know transitioning jobs a lot is kind of hard. And so managing your own career as a military spouse, as a mom, and then you have one that's in the public spotlight. How do you manage your career and the other life responsibilities, especially with a career like yours where you are traveling and you are the center of attention?
I've hired at least 6 other wives for my husband, which has been a whole thing. It's a tax nightmare, Danny. Here's the thing. This is something somebody said to me a long time ago. In order for you to for somebody to have a good relationship with a comedian, they also have to have had a job that's really intense. So my husband is a pilot, and he was a C-130 pilot, which is also an intense type of pilot. And he did that for 20 plus years. And then he moved on to other airplanes. But, that was a big chunk of his life where that was all that he could do. So we have that understanding, and he's helping me with more stuff. And I never show his face. I never show my kid's face. In fact, he's recently taken on a British accent, which is great. And the more that you can sort of, in fact, I revised my Facebook biography yesterday that says wife to Cheryl Pistachio and to my imaginary husband, mom to a British ghost and 7 Roombas. And so because it's just like none of it, but people, they always want to know things and then don't believe what you tell them. I have so many people that don't believe I have a husband. And then, okay, fine. I'm inventing a wife. I invented a wife. I created a whole family tree for this wife where her sister is actually married to her stepdad and they've had a kid. And it just takes on a life of its own.
Well, I've watched quite a bit of your stuff in the last year or so. One, love your cat, love Ghost Husband, and your jokes, especially surrounding the military community, are so spot on. I think I was watching one the other day. You were looking out the window and you saw a service member on a first date, and then you're like, nope, he's proposing.
He's proposing. Get the hose. Get the hose.
Exactly. But it's with that type of tension, that type of humor, obviously people are going to be attracted to it, military community and those that are curious. But unfortunately, life also comes with its own criticism, and you kind of even mentioned some of it, people not believing that you have a husband and so on and so forth. How do you navigate the criticism and backlash?
Oh, it doesn't matter to me because I'm not trying to sleep with any of those people. They don't. That's the thing. Like people are like, "Well, I'm not trying to date you. I don't care if you believe anything about my life. I could tell you I have 15 toes. None of it matters. They can be as critical about anything. It has no impact on me whatsoever, except that I can take it and use it in some funny way." The actual things that do bother me are when people tell me not to respond to people that are being hateful, because I'm like, screw you. I got to, not only do I have to take on whatever this is, but I also have to be like, well, I'm just going to suck it up and push it down. No, I'm going to destroy this person emotionally. That is my job. You're on a walk right now. Use that time to plot revenge.
Oh my gosh. And this is part of what I love about it, being able to laugh. I mean, what you do with the Best Medicine Brigade and Operation Hilarious, when we were in Vegas and had the chance to see you, one of the nights it was the comedy night and you were up there, and it was one of the funniest things. This is a shameless plug for Ashley. Go watch her stuff. If you have a chance to see her live, look her up, go watch it. You will probably feel like you did an ab workout the next morning. But you were on
I
tour
appreciate that.
Absolutely. You were on tour with this amazing organization that's trying to bring laughter as a way to heal some traumas. Would you mind talking about how you can use comedy as a form of therapy and what the journey's been like for you personally?
Yeah. So just preface it with, remember, I'm a robot that's basically dead inside. So I don't have a whole lot of emotions and feelings anyway. I also am autistic. And I have a psychologist and she was like, you have had a lot of trauma in your life, but you do not process it as trauma. And I'm like, that sounds like the way to be, right? It's like, I just don't think of it that way. That's great. It was just a weird story. The general idea is if things that are bad can happen to you, and if you can turn them into something good, then it gives you a positive feeling inside. So I can tell you that if there's something bad that happens to me, no matter what it is, no matter how horrific it is, as bad of a person that might make me seem to the outside world, within about 10 minutes, I will have the thought, how can I use this? So if you can start to do that and learn how to frame, how can I turn this into a joke? How can I build this into, it doesn't have to be a joke for anybody else. It can be a joke for you. It can be a story. It can be a painting, something weird, something that gets you outside of whatever you think you're supposed to be doing. This drives me insane. People are crushed by the idea that they need to, that they're going to be embarrassed about something. Okay, be embarrassed. Have that emotion for a bit and then do a bit more and then be embarrassed about that. Otherwise, what are you going to do? There's one of my favorite things, if you can check it out. It's on YouTube. It's Tim Minchin. He's a composer. He's a comedian. He's Australian, and he does a video for the 50th anniversary of the Sydney Opera House. And it's the most beautiful, amazing thing I've ever seen. It's called Play It Safe. And the whole thing is about how they didn't want the Sydney Opera House. There's people that were against it, protests against it. When I think of Australia, it's the only thing that I think of. I don't know anything about Australia except that iconic Sydney Opera House. And the whole song is about how you shouldn't play it safe. You need to do the other things. If you don't, your life has already been lived. We've had so many people that have come before us that have lived boring, lame lives. Go do something. Go throw a knife into your wall. See if it sticks. Don't sue me. And if you live in base housing, they're going to make you pay for it. But you can buy spackle, like it looks like a deodorant stick. And then that's what I've done in the past.
Or you can put up a wall like you have behind you.
Oh yeah, this is just my fence.
With what you've been doing, traveling around and bringing this comedy, what have you noticed the response from the military and veteran community has been like?
Protests, flamethrowers. No, seems pretty good. I don't really have much pushback. There'll be people. What did I have? I had the one that made me laugh once that said I had stolen valor. And it didn't make any sense to me at all. I was like, what do you mean about here? I don't like, there's things that people just say that they don't know what they mean, or there's people that are struggling in one sense or another. But yeah, I'll be at events. I had a 1-star Army general in his full dress uniform come around the corner and he looks at me and he goes, "Oh my God, I gotta get a selfie with you." And I'm like, what? Okay, let's do it. I had a command chief come up and go, hey, I wake up with you in bed every morning. And then he was like, wait a minute, wait, that's not what I meant. Wait. And he's like, on the phone. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, it could be, whatever you want. So it's like, it's all good stuff. In person, it's all good stuff. It's the internet that's a dumpster fire, and who cares? The real problem is there's censorship and in this, like the ways that the algorithms and the social medias are working that don't really work. As much abuse as I get, I'll get flagged for things that are totally innocent just because of the way the computers work, and so that sort of makes me try to work my brain into like, how can I make it so that I can just say whatever the heck I want. And that makes me sound like I'm some sort of edgelord that's out here trying to say something ridiculous. It wouldn't be that at all. Like, I got flagged for just saying like great job, but the computer picks it up in some way, and then it puts a mark against my account, and then all of a sudden people can't see my stuff. So I want to protect that so that I spread out amongst as many social media networks as I can. I'm even on LinkedIn. You want me to get you fired from your job? I can do it. Follow me.
I love it. Not safe. Do you put the NSFW on there for your LinkedIn account?
They need to just know.
I love it. Well, and I definitely know like the internet stuff can be frustrating. I mean, we even get flagged, and we don't talk about anything in any kind of controversial manner at all. We try to be as helpful as possible. And I constantly get emails from Facebook and Twitter, which we don't even tweet. We like other tweets. And I get a notification that my account's been suspended. I'm like, well, I don't know what happened. And it is frustrating. And then being on the road.
I had somebody completely take over, like create a new Twitter account with my face and all that stuff in it. And the way that for me to be able to take it down is I had to upload all my like documents. And I'm like, I'm not giving Elon Musk my driver's license. He's going to start some new business with it. Whatever, just let him be.
Well, with those frustrations and then the exhaustion of just being on the road, because while the events are great and seeing people in person is great, like needing downtime, needing personal time, and sometimes just taking the smile off can be a necessary moment, right? So for you, what do you do for your own? I know you say you're a robot and you're dead inside, but we also have our way of processing real life. So what are you doing for your real life side?
What do I do for? I just set a lot of fires, just arson in various cities. They haven't got me yet.
Do not flag that.
Don't. Oh, cut that out. I forgot.
It's a joke.
It's a joke. Internet. So I don't take downtime. I don't do any of that. I don't have any self-care things. I go until I die. And that's just a life philosophy. I actually do much better when I do things in streaks. When I have things that are break up over a series of days, or if I like have somebody that I haven't seen in a while, it's probably like a part of like an autistic piece. I don't ever really want to see that person again. There's something about like, I'm just like, okay, they're out of my life. Now we need to move on. For some reason, they're not talking to me. They're dead to me. Let's move on. It's so much easier for me to have a routine where I wake up, I run every day, and then let's say I've been doing live streams. So I do a live stream every day, and then I do something else and I make some videos. It's so much easier for me to chug along like a little bulldozer than it is for me to take a break about something. Now, that being said, I have to sleep. Not very good at sleeping, especially on the road. I have this little Aura ring that tells me how my body's doing, and it will be like, go to the hospital. It'll tell me to sleep if I haven't had enough sleep, because I might just go. Let's say, I don't know. I was doing a show in New York. I had to drive back from Woodstock, New York, to Newark Airport, and I was in my hotel room at 2 a.m. and I was walking through security at Newark Airport at 4:30 a.m. So there was no sleep there. And so that's super important to be able to have things like that, which is why it's good when my husband participates, because he'll go, oh, you need to sleep. Go, you're done. Go. And then he can shut it down. And because my brain doesn't connect, my body connects before my brain does. So I assume at some point you'll see me on the news, like wielding a trident, half naked, and you'll know why. It's because I can't take breaks.
Oh my gosh. Well, is this obsession with streaks, this autistic nature, as you mentioned, that to keep things going or not going, is that kind of what led you to almost complete? When you said you run every day, like you've ran at least a mile every day for 9 years by the end of this month or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, 9 years. Yeah. So that started out with my husband was going away to a military course. He was going to be gone for 2 weeks, and I was like, I'm going to run a mile every day. When he gets back, I'm going to be in such good shape. Of course, there was no change in between those first 2 weeks, but that first 2 weeks got me onto, well, I can't stop now. Okay, and then I went from 17-minute miles running, terrible, winded, wheezing, to within 100 days, I think I hit 8-minute miles, and my fastest mile ever is 6:55. And now because I've ran for so long, people were like, well, you're going to hurt your knees. You're going to have this, you're going to have that. You know how many things have happened to me? I've been hit by 2 cars. I got a traumatic brain injury coming back from a show. I was in the hospital. I had COVID, where it felt like I was drowning. I still did 3 miles. I only have to technically do 1 mile. I did 3 miles. And the amount of food poisoning. Here's something that people don't know. If you're congested and you go out for a run, the congestion goes away. I don't know why it's like a runner's secret or what. But sometimes because I have really bad allergies, if I run, that's the only time I can breathe. So you just run more during those things. I've fallen in 2 gopher holes. I'm running right now on 2 broken toes. And last year in May, I hit myself in the leg with a sledgehammer. And it's just, you just go. You just do it. I love how sane I make myself sound on your podcast.
No, this is awesome, especially for the people that are like you or like-minded. I know all of those reasons that go for holes, the broken toes, the COVID, the food poisoning, the hit by cars. You have every excuse to not run. But you still do it. You do it despite how you're feeling. Do you have a practical tip or two that you could share for somebody that's looking to just start incorporating something that's good for them and keep it going even when they don't feel like it?
Yeah, don't try to make it be too big early on. So like people will be like, well, I'm training for a marathon. Well, that just sounds exhausting and expensive. Why are you doing that? I have ran a half marathon and a full marathon, but the full marathon I did in my neighborhood while I picked up litter, because that's another thing. When I got hit by the second car, I was also in a car, but I was coming back from a show and they spun me on the highway. They were speeding and I got a TBI from it. And so I instead of saying like watermelon, I'll say peaches, so I screw up words and do things like that. But the things that people will do, so I started picking up litter because I couldn't run as fast. That was basically where that goes. So I've also picked up litter every day as a streak within a streak, which is always fun, is I've picked up litter every day for almost 4 years.
Wow.
So the thing to do, people will be like, well, I'm going to run 3 miles every other day. No, it's awful. It's too much. You're doing too much. If you say I'm going to run 1 mile or I'm going to walk 1 mile or I'm going to play chess for 15 minutes, just make it tiny, tiny amounts. So the marathon thing is people say we want to train for a marathon. Your bones have to harden for years. There are people that train and they get to that 20-mile mark within their training and then their legs break because your bones have to harden from years of running. So it's a lifelong sort of pursuit. Not everybody can run or should run. Some of us have jacked up knees. Don't do it. Go find something else, something that you kind of enjoy. I still don't really like running. I like that I can do it. I like that I can do it forever now, it seems. And early on, I used to say, I'm only running in case I'm ever chased by a bear. Then we were stationed. My husband was out at McCord Air Force Base. We lived there for a bit. I saw a bear. I'm an idiot. I just said, "Oh, cute! I'm going to take a picture." And then I was like, "Oh no, this is what I've been training for my whole life." Right? I know. Now, I've been eaten by a bear. Oh, I just have a great picture of a bear now. And then I was like, "Oh no."
Well. I absolutely love your spirit, and I wish that we had enough time to continue our conversation. And I know that within the military and veteran community, mental health struggles are real. I know that I experienced them despite me wanting to experience them. And with those struggles comes increased suicide rates. Um, and I would just love to know from you, with all your positivity and what you put out into the world and the hope that you try to bring, what message of hope would you have for somebody that's currently struggling?
I'm trying to think of some time. So my family is full of suicide. There's, I believe, it's some sort of genetic component, in a sense. So, like, one of my first memories is my uncle who was in the army. I came home from school and found out that he had done that, and then that sort of sent a whole spiral of family stuff. But I've got one in every generation, so first off, do something for somebody else. I would say message of hope. The way that the things that make me feel the best or pull me out of one thing, let's attach it to running for a second. I have ran for that long. I have not wanted to run every single day. Sometimes I'm literally in the middle of the run before I realize that I'm doing it. And I go, oh yeah, I'm out here running. It just becomes like a thing. But there's days where I do not want to do it. And they pass over time. Maybe a week later, I totally forgot about the time that it sucked that I ran. But if you can get out there and do something to help somebody else on even a small level, you're going to feel good. Also, get help. We got the American Legion. We got the Be the One program. Come join us at Hilarious, and we'll talk to you about how to take hard stuff that's happening. But there's also, like we went to MIC, look at all of the resources that are available at MIC and the different things. I sort of see myself as a bag of chemicals as a person, right? Which means that sometimes those can be out of balance. You have, it's not all like, you can't just all fight it on your own. Reach out to professionals and have them help you. And while at the same time trying to do something for somebody else and to try to make your life better as well.
That's really well said. And thank you for that message. Reach out. There are plenty of resources. We cannot do this alone. And speaking of reaching out, where can people find and connect with you?
I'm basically everywhere. AshleyGutermuth.com, but type in short, weird-haired lady comedian, military comedian, you'll find me. But yeah, Ash Gutermuth everywhere. I'm Ash Gutermuth. I like the name Ash, but mostly because there is one other Ashley Gutermuth in the world. She does not like when people message her. So she's just, she's having a rough couple of years.
Well, Ashley, thank you so much for joining us here on the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast.
Thank you. Hope to talk to you again.
Absolutely. And I trust that Ashley's adventure sparked a little comedy and motivation for your stroll today. Remember to record your progress and join our online walking group, 1 Mile, 1 Veteran, on the Strava app. This will help keep your spirits high and ensure you maintain your activity daily. And don't forget, you can also tune into the 1 Mile, 1 Veteran podcast on Wreaths Across America Radio, accessible through iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and the TuneIn app.